Hi, how you doing? It's been about a month since we've had a little walk around the yard. The first one was mid-April just to see how things were going, and so I thought we'd take a little stroll today and just walk around the yard and sort of show the progress of things, how things are growing, what's coming up, what maybe not coming up yet, and I thought maybe you'd like to come along with me. My name is Sharon. I garden on a large yard in a small town in east central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sask Garden. So to start off, I thought we'd start off just over here in the rock garden. It seems to be what has the most color at this time of year for me, and so let's go. Over here in this area, all of the short bearded iris. This is all in here is short bearded iris. It's all coming up nicely. The second half on the other side is in more shade, and that's why it doesn't grow quite as much. And then over here in this bed I have daylilies. They're coming up nicely. I have more short bearded iris in here. There's oriental lilies that have popped through, looking really good. More daylilies. This is a phlox I planted last year. I'm happy to see it coming back and looking quite robust. This is a campanula, which is a harebell campanula, and this one is blue. I see that there is now, or that there is also white. And I quite like this plant. It formed just a nice mound of blue flowers. It would be a nice tidy edging if that's what you're looking for. Bees are busy. Iris, these short bearded iris are just about to start blooming. And then just a long shot, you can see how the Virginia is coming into bloom, and I just think it looks really pretty at this time of year. It's too bad the Virginia doesn't bloom for a little bit longer, but I do like the look very much. Just coming around this corner, I have 3 clumps of what I believe are eternal summer species cross iris. It is not, I'm fairly certain it is not a short bearded iris, and it also reblooms. I'm pretty sure last year it was 3 reblooms. The second one is not as heavy, but you can see how it is just chocker block full of blooms. It also probably doubled in size from last year. I got this plant in a trade, and it was unnamed, so I don't know what it is, but that's my best guess. I collaborated with someone else who has a lot of knowledge, and that's what we came up with. Continuing on over in here, this was a new perennial last year. This is Boom Chocolata. It's a perennial geranium. Also very happy to see that coming back. I think that's an echinacea behind it. And I think I should have an echinacea coming up over there too, that sunset coral or sunset something. I don't see any growth on that yet, so that might be a bit of a concern. And then this would be the start of the rocky part of the rock garden. This used to be a lilac shrub that I cut down and killed. You can still see some of the stumps now that the soil is dropping a bit, but it's a good area for growing. There's moss phlox in bloom. This is another moss phlox just over here, and it's had quite a bit of dieback, so I'm just leaving it because I do see green popping up through there too. And there's some sedum. This little one here, it's going to bloom just a carpet of yellow. It's quite pretty. It's also can be pretty invasive. You have to cut it back after it's done blooming or it'll seed out. And in here I have some dianthus. And the original plant actually died, but before it died, it set seeds. So I have, and the seeds seem to come true as well. So I have a few seedlings And I will just continue to let that happen, to let it seed out in case they're marginally hardy. Back in black sedum that I thought was, I gotta get out of the shadow, that I thought was struggling. This is it, and it's come back, and this is the best it's ever looked. So it likes this area for whatever reason. Sharp drainage perhaps, maybe the warmth from a rock in the background, I don't know, but I'm happy to see it. In my plant haul video just a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that I bought another one. I like those dark foliaged plants. And in here, the hens and chicks are doing really nicely. All of them. This one is actually Orostachys, not sempervivum. And the way you can tell is the Orostachys produces little rollers. They fall off the plant and roll, and then wherever they roll, they root. Maybe not sticking up like that. I think their butt actually has to be down. And then I planted some ajuga in here last year. This one is black scallop. You know, they came out of winter looking just like they did going into winter. They're evergreen. I'm assuming with good snow cover, but they did awesome. I'm very happy to see that happening. This one is a marble ajuga. It had quite a bit of dieback right in the center, but it's all coming back. So for whatever reason that it died back, doesn't really matter. And it's going to send up a bunch of blue blooms. And then back in here, this is a volunteer columbine. I think it blooms a nice pink. I've left it, but I will probably move it. And back in here, the dark purple foliage is a penstemon. And I would just have to try and remember which one this is. It's not onyx and opal, I know that. But this is coming back stronger this year. This is its third year. It's coming back much stronger this year than it did last year, so I have high hopes for this. And over here I have clustered bellflower. I thought that would kind of fill this area in, and hopefully it'll creep along the greenhouse a little there too. There's, of course, more Virginia. This is my onyx and opal penstemon, also with that beautiful dark foliage. This impressed me so much last year, and it had dieback this year. It also has a nice couple of bits that are still coming back, so I'm hopeful. I don't know what this is. This has yet to bloom, so I haven't determined yet if it's a weed. It's self-sowed there. I haven't yet determined if it's a weed or if it's something that I should keep, so for now I'm just keeping it. This is another salvia I planted last year, the color spires, and this is Indigo Girl. I didn't point out back to the fuchsia, but these are really strong salvias. They're the Color Spires series from Proven Winners. And over here, a Veronica. This one is something light. I've forgotten now. I actually have it as a note. It's a nice Veronica. And over here, just another penstemon. This penstemon is Dark Towers. I planted it last fall. It's coming back nicely. And the other penstemon that I couldn't remember the name of is Midnight Masquerade. Also, just to point out, this is back to the fuchsia salvia. It's already pushing flower buds. This is very early for my yard. You'll see as we go on how much later my yard is because it's mulched. Here is not, just with some sand. but I love this plant. Love, love, love it. So just going on, we'll go over to the front yard. There's everything still waiting to be planted, all the perennials and my tray of Dusty Miller, which is almost busting out of their pots. Just a couple more nights of cool weather, and then I'm going to plant these out because they are hardened off completely and they can also take pretty cold weather. This week coming up, I'm going to be taking part of the soil out and regenerating the soil and reusing it and getting all the pots ready just to pop in the plants when it warms up a little more. In here, this is going to be some changes coming this year, but for now, there's many clumps of Happy Returns daylilies. They bloom a nice lemony yellow color. They're like Stella d'Oro, but a different color. They bloom profusely, and if the blooms are cut back, they will rebloom a little later in the season, although not as heavy. But I will be digging this up and making some changes this year. And then all along the house in the front, you'll see that I have a lot of different varieties of hens and chicks. And they do well here. They've always done well here. I tend to snag a few from time to time and put them somewhere else. That's easily done. And then more daylily. In here is, you see the tulips and the daffodils are all but done. It's actually time for me to come in and cut them down, cut the flowering stems down. So I will just cut the stems off or break them off, and I'm going to leave the foliage to die back naturally. That's how the bulb regenerates for next season's growth. It has to suck in all of that sunshine, and it regenerates, feeds the bulb for next year, and then next year's bulbs will be nice again. To mask that, in the front, I'm going to put a row of annuals. Dusty Miller, actually, the new look Dusty Miller, the one with the fat leaf. And in between wherever I can find a space in here, I'm also going to plant some zinnias. I've got some zinnias going. The fritillaria did well. They didn't all bloom. Just the one on that side bloomed, but that's okay. Hopefully next year they'll bloom. 4 on this side bloomed. And I think I lost a red one, but these yellow ones have multiplied in size. And in behind here are all the oriental lilies. I don't know how many there are, maybe 15, like that. And they'll bloom about end of July to early August. Moving on, we have a variety of sedums that have just kind of intermingled all in here. They look nice when they bloom, as well as the hens and chicks. This shrub is a Mohican viburnum, and it's just, it'll bloom around the same time as the lilacs. And there's lots of flower buds on it this year. I really have to keep this in check because it will grow quite tall if it wants to. And so after it blooms, I'll come in and take off maybe a foot. I'll cut it back. This is a Pocahontas lilac, and I had to cut this back last year. I cut it back quite severely, so it has very few blooms. As well in the front, and this is south facing, and these shrubs have all been here, well, with the exception of the Mohican viburnum. That was planted a little later, but these shrubs have been here for 25 years, I guess, or thereabouts. And this is a high bush cranberry, and I have a few in the backyard as well, and I'll just point this out, how they root. A stem comes along the ground, and it just sort of, as it goes along the ground, it begins to root, and then a whole new shrub pops up. So in here, within the next little while, I could come in and harvest or dig up 1, 2, 3. There's another small one starting there. 4, 5, 6, 7. I could dig up at least 7 new shrubs to add somewhere else. I do like this shrub. It flowers nicely. It takes really well to severe pruning, which I think also happened last year or the year before. And it makes nice little berries, which are edible, but they're the ones that smell really badly when they're being cooked down into a juice, which is then made into a jelly. But apparently they stink to high heaven when they're cooking, so you need to cook them outside. This is another Pocahontas lilac, and it's struggling a bit, I think. We'll see when it leaves out more. It does have a lot of bloom this year, although they're small. This could be because of drought situations in the last little while. That could very well be, and you can also see how it has, it has like virtually no leaves at the bottom. So I've been thinking of 2 things: trimming it up to grow it like a tree form like that, or rejuvenation pruning, which I haven't decided quite yet which I'll do, but I'm going to wait to see it leaf out a little bit more. In here is a juniper for a ground cover. I cannot remember which variety this juniper is, but it's growing well, and it masks some of what was going on under there. This is Arnold Red honeysuckle, I think Arnold Red, shrub form, not the vining form. And this one I cut back severely last year because this one as well gets bare legs and lots of growth on top. And so every few years I go in and I chop it right down so that it's a little shorter and a little more full. I will mention that juniper absolutely loves this yard. Whatever is going on in this yard, the juniper, any of the juniper that I have planted are really, really like it. I'll just, in the front here, this is a Mayday tree. It was a Skinner's variety, or it is a Skinner's variety. And right now the leaves are green. And as it matures, the leaves go very dark purple, blooms white. A number of years ago now, the Mayday tree, it was growing as a single trunk tree. The Mayday tree got black knot disease and it got it in its trunk, and we had to cut it down. But I waited, and sure enough, it popped up a lot of new growth at the bottom. And so it's turned into a nice shrub instead. Over here I have a dwarf mugo pine. The candles are just starting to emerge, and so these candles are the new growth of the mugo pine. And although this is a dwarf mugo pine, I don't know how many years old this is now, maybe 10. I come in every year and I snip off most of the new growth, and I try to shape it that way. So if I want it to be a little taller in the center, I won't snip off the new growth here. And by snipping off the new growth, I remove those candles. But I do like to see the candles at first. They look really nice. They look like fingers pointing up out of the shrub. They're just a little immature yet to see that, but they look really nice. And so I won't cut them off for probably a month, but I do come in and prune all that off. As well, you see here some browning tips, and that won't regreen or anything, so I'll come in and probably snip that whole thing off just to get rid of the browning tips. It occasionally happens, and I think that's just a bit of winter burn. But I quite like this shrub here. I think it fills in this area nicely. Over here I have a rosy bloom, thunderchild rosy bloom flowering crab tree, crab apple. The fruit that it produces is plentiful, but they are very tiny. They're maybe the size of like a Smartie. They're really small. And So I know some people don't like the dropping fruit. It doesn't really bother us at all. Actually, most of them stay on the plant, and the birds eat them up during the winter time. This plant does produce all of these suckers at the bottom, and I come in every year and remove them, just nip them off. I'll just mention these other juniper. This one is a Calgary carpet, and I think there was 3 plants planted in here, and it's quite slow growing, and you know, it's 25 years here probably, and I don't ever really have to prune very much out of it. Very rarely. This year I will. Just anything that comes and droops over the stones a bit, or anything that encroaches the driveway. This is a Savin juniper. That's S-A-V-I-N. And these were, when I planted them, they were 3 little 1-gallon pots. The plant was no bigger than this. They just look like 3 little dots under here, which under here is all filled with crushed rock. And these, unlike the Calgary carpet that grows slow, these really like to spread, and they root as they go along. I have had to start pruning because I try to keep it, you know, in line with the driveway so it doesn't encroach the driveway too much. It also comes over the front here. However, you have to be careful when you're pruning, because you land up with these ugly bare branches down at the bottom. So I have to do rather selective pruning to try and keep it looking the way it's supposed to look, and not kind of like this with the bare brown wood underneath, because that brown wood won't grow more green. There's a good indication, there's a good example right there of what it does, and I don't like that look. And I'm hoping that some branches will make their way under and start growing there again. It grows very well though. This, briefly, I cleaned up this bed, and I thought that this is a little Miss Kim lilac, and I thought she was dead. She bloomed so heavy last year, but as it turns out, she's leafing, and I think she's going to be fine. I did do a little bit of pruning and got out just some dead wood that was in there. This, of course, I have still not decided what's going on. Time will tell. I'm waiting for inspiration. We'll just go along the alley. So, just going along the alley here, I just cut this back the other day. This is a Diablo 9 bark planted on the corner, and it had some bare legs as well, and then growth on top. So we just cut out the whole thing. Just on the east side of the house here, alongside the alley, I grow more daylilies. My plan originally was to fill this with daylilies as well as that side. I just haven't done that side yet. I used to have that shrub over here too. That shrub is very aggressive. It's called a Sorbaria sorbifolia, not this tree, but that shrub. It's called a Sorbaria sorbifolia, and some people might refer to it as a spirea or false spirea, but it is a thug. If you have a place in your yard that you need to cover quickly and you don't care how much it runs, that Sorbaria is a pretty good shrub for that. It leaves out early, and it spreads by runners and suckers, and it's drought tolerant, and it's a pretty good shrub. Anyways, daylilies here, there's 2 different kinds here, and this is a pagoda dogwood back here. It's just starting to leaf. It also blooms white quite nicely, and it has this structure of being wider than it is supposed to be, wider than it is tall. I was in here the other day and had to cut out a bunch of dead wood on it as well, and we're just going to have to watch it and see how it goes. The east side of the house rarely gets rain. You know, most of our rain comes from the west when we do, and I don't water back on this side, but I might have to give this a good soak just to try and give it some moisture. It almost seems like it's leafing out grudgingly, that it has to do it, but it doesn't really want to. So we'll see how it is. I just like to take a walk around the perimeter, at least once a week. And this is where I see if there's any weedy trees, anything that needs to be like this. Oh, no, that's a dead branch. Oh, good. And this, yeah, this is a maple. So I missed getting a maple tree seedling from there, which is a sapling now. So I'll have to make my way in there and cut that out. Otherwise, these are pretty much all chokecherry. And there is some perennials that have started to blow in, like delphinium is one, and aconitum is another that have started to come in here. And I like it. I don't mind that. I may start putting, seeding some Martagon lilies in here because they would like that kind of condition. And I think it would be nice, even though it's the alley side, I think it would be nice to have that. And you know, it's easy to seed Martagon lilies. You just simply spread the seed along. It's very simple. But I've been trying to keep it clean, and I did this section last year where I went in and cut out all the weedy growth, and I did the next part that we're going to walk. I did that this year. I showed a bit of it in another video. I'm leaving as many chokecherry trees as I can for now. And this is the big willow area. I cleaned all this up. We had some weedy trees in here as well. I left the stump here. My plan is to maybe put some soil in there and grow something. Maybe like one of those aggressive sedums. I think it might live here. I also have some ferns planted in here, and that would be excellent actually if ferns took over this whole corner. I think that would look really nice. We'll just have to see if it's actually wet enough, because the willow roots really do suck up a lot of the moisture. Along here is all the section that I just finished cutting out. Obviously missed some, still have to get in there and do a little bit more weeding as well as a little bit more cutting. There's still some maple tree seedlings. Gosh, I think I said once before that they are my nemesis. And I hate them. We get so many. We have that great big maple tree in the front, and there's a bunch over here as well. They're all over town. So the seeds just blow in, and they love rooting in that kind of an environment. We'll just go on into the backyard. I said juniper likes to grow in my yard, in our yard, and this was a seedling, and I was quite enthralled with the fact that there was a seedling, first of all, so I let it go. I wanted to see what it would do, and it has grown into this. Now that I know what it's done, and it's also getting to the point now where it has to be pruned all the way along. So instead of doing pruning, I'm just gonna remove the whole thing and take it out. Along here, this is now, because this used to be full sun, as I mentioned before, and now it's becoming more and more shade and woodland kind of area. So I have planted some hosta in here, as well as some lady's mantle. The lady's mantle is through. The hosta is just poking through. This is Centaurea montana, or perennial bachelor button, and I'm going to have to come in and get rid of that. It used to be a clump here. I thought I had gotten rid of it all, but I guess I didn't. And then in this area at the back, all the way along, I have 10 peonies that take up a lot of room. And I also have monkshood going on in there. That's a good one for this kind of area because it grows and blooms in either sun or shade. It's quite tolerant of shade. All of this that you see that looks like grass Well, the odd one might be grass, but a lot of that is ornamental onion seedlings. And I do like the ornamental onion, but I don't really care for all this. So once they get big enough, like now, I'm going to come in and pull all of them out and just leave clumps here and there to grow on, and I think that would be better. I've also started more monkshood, columbine, and also thalictrum, which is meadow rue. I've got that planted in here. There's quite a few further on. There's quite a few Martagon lilies, and my plan is, I think I probably already have sprinkled more seed in here for it to take hold in this area as well, and I'll probably do some along the fence line. They are so easy care. There's really nothing to them aside from knocking down the stems in the spring or in the fall, whichever you choose. I used to have a bunch of daylily in here. I still have maybe a couple. They need, I think they really, in a zone 3, I think they really do need full sun. I don't think they bloom as prolifically in the shade as they do in the sun. I've also got, there's 3 clumps of perennial geranium. This is another good candidate for part sun, part shade. When I say that, it's because this area actually does get pockets of sun throughout the day, depending on where it is between the trees, and it gets some dappled sun as well. And so more peony, more right here, more Martagon lily. In addition, back here, kind of, well, this depth all the way along, I also have Heliopsis, but I think I'll be moving them because they're getting a little too lanky. There's just not enough sun. Oh, it's a cool day today. It's 10 degrees. And, it's supposed to go to -2 tonight, or -3. And so, but that's going to be the last night. And then it looks like it's going to start slowly warming up. But it's definitely cool today. So in here, Virginia, more Martagon lilies, which, you can see they just kind of grow wherever they please. I've not yet moved any. I will eventually, because they do start to kind of get in the way of something behind. And a whole bunch of columbine in here. It's all the same color. It's a very dark purple. Not really sure that I like this. I already see a problem in here. On this one, it has some growth that has, I'm pretty sure that's like a leaf miner, some problem with it. I had this problem last year as well, and it's an easy to grow perennial. However, I have a love-hate relationship with it, that's for sure. I didn't mention the shrubs in here. I have Diablo 9 bark over here, as well as I think 2 in that section. They are just starting to leaf. Diablo 9 bark or 9 bark are very slow to leaf, and they look very dead up until that point. So, just be patient with that. They do take a minute to get going. And this shrub is a common elder, and this is a seedling that I allowed to grow into what it is now. I don't know how many years that's taken, perhaps 5 or 6, I'm not sure. There's a bunch of chokecherry underneath there that I'm going to have to get rid of. I didn't want to do anything here until I knew that the elder was going to be alive, because I have found with other elder in the yard, the common elder, the seedling elder, that one day they just up and die. So, I wanted to wait. It does have some dead branches in it, but for the most part, these are full of blooms. It's going to be all in bloom in a little bit, and then after that, lots of red berries. And they're quite decorative, and the birds like them. Here is another high bush cranberry. There's another lilac over there. More thalictrum in here. I see it's sending up its shoots. So I think everything is coming along quite nicely. These are Asiatic lilies, and these are Martagon lilies, and you can see it's starting to show its little blooms. Martagon lilies grow a little bit differently. They have a stem and then 5 leaves, and then a bit of stem and another 5 leaves. They call that whorled leaves, WHORLED. This one has 6 leaves, so maybe it's not always 5. But that's how they grow. Now these buds, if you get a hard frost, these buds are actually susceptible to frost. I did lose them all one year. My Martagons didn't bloom at all, which I really missed because I have a number of them, and they really do add a lot to the June garden. And so they're not all showing buds. So far this year, there are some that are not, but I'm hoping the frost, I'm sure it will freeze tonight, and I'm hoping the frost won't be too severe so that they get spared. I also planted quite a bit of hosta in here and also in there. They're just barely showing now. We're getting into a section here that's a lot more sun. No, I just see some garbage. Now, it looks like it's all full of grass in here, and I'm not saying there isn't grass, because there is. Some of it is grass. It was a ornamental grass that it's a perennial ornamental grass, but it seeds out terribly, and I still have clumps of it here and there. This part, however, that looks like grass is a perennial dianthus. Grows about this high, and it's got these tiny pink flowers that sort of wave in the wind. And it's like a see-through plant because it's not thick with flowers or heavy with flowers. They're just sort of intermingled all throughout, and I quite like the look. But it is kind of a messy looking. They don't really clump. They kind of creep along and mix in with other things. I like it, so I leave it. It is drought tolerant, and I've collected seeds and started them elsewhere as well. Easy to grow plant. As well, in here amongst that, I have a lot of lilies. More Martagons there. Martagons will grow in either sun or shade. I planted some over on by the vegetable garden, which is full sun now, and there's some clumps that are beautiful with growth. So along a couple of posts, this one, I have a clematis that is growing. The name escapes me right now. Lovely pink flowers. I tend to leave these stems, last year's stems, although I will cut this part off. But I tend to leave this. You can actually see that growth has started about a foot up. That's growth on last year's wood. All of this is. But I tend to leave this simply for it to climb up and get its way going. Otherwise, sometimes they sprawl along the ground for me. Up here, a wren is busy building a nest and singing for a mate. Not at the moment, but he has sung many times. It's those nests have a hole just big enough for, I believe, either a chickadee or a little brown wren. And the wrens come every year since Andy put up those little houses. In here I have another very large peony here. That's the reason for this structure. I actually did this last year while it was, in full bloom and stuff, because it was just hanging so badly. The blooms on this thing are massive, just massive. And I'm going to come in with green wire instead of this neon orange, but you do what you have to do, right? In here as well, I have some more daylily as well as short-bearded iris wanting to come into bloom here. There's more short-bearded iris, lots of daylily in here, lots of tall-bearded iris in here. And this plant, as well as this one over here, these are tree peony. And tree peonies grow from old wood. So this is the woody stem, and the shoot comes off of the woody stem. I don't do anything special for these guys to survive winter. They just continue to grow. I did lose all the growth one year, all the dead growth. I cut it back after I knew that it wasn't going to come back to life, and it did regrow. It did produce more old wood or more woody stems, and it has continued to grow. It doesn't bloom as profusely as a regular peony, and I just see it's just starting to form a bud here. There's another one going to form there. I don't know how many buds I'll get. 3, 4. Oh, I might get a few this year. But it's never really gotten huge. It's never produced a great deal of bloom. It just kind of is, and I'm happy that I'm able to winter it in this area. And then this is this is a different kind. I mean, it's still a tree peony, a different kind. This one has some blooms that are a little bit more advanced, and they do bloom some years at different times. They don't always bloom at the same time. Back in here, lots of lilies, and they are just emerging. And you know, while I'm talking about lilies, I will just remind you all to go out and inspect your lilies now while they're emerging, to make sure you don't have any lily beetle. And I have a grass problem in here as well that I need to tackle every year. You would see the damage if there was the lily beetle. If you had it, you would already see the damage. They would look like holes and eaten, and you'd find larvae perhaps. But if you have the lily beetle, it's going to start coming along with the lilies as they're growing up, and they'll destroy your lilies in no time. So yeah, that's this area. Just above is our bedroom window, so I get that view every morning. I stand there for I don't know how long, sometimes several times a day, look out and just kind of watch what's going on. And I think sometimes I create the view more create the bed and the placement of it, if you can call it a placement. I create it more for that view than the view from the yard. You know, I mulch quite heavily. What this mulch is mostly is underneath is flax straw, and on top I leave the leaves and I chop and drop. And so when you mulch heavy, it's going to keep the soil cooler, and it's going to take a minute for plants to emerge. The plants in my yard emerge later than my neighbor's yard, who doesn't mulch, and I'm okay with it. They catch up eventually. For some things you want to think about if you want that mulch. I don't mulch oriental lilies, for example, because they need to pop up early in the year, and so they need a warm protected spot, so the soil warms quick, they pop up early, and they get going early so that they can bloom in time, so that they have enough of a dying down process before frost hits. This is a weigela in here. It's just coming into leaf, so it really doesn't look like much. But when it blooms this year, hopefully it does, I'm going to show it to you, because it's a zone 4 or zone 5 plant, but it's been planted here for probably 25 years. And it's really in not a very good spot, but it just seems to love it there. Some years, it dies to the snow line if there isn't enough snow. One year it died completely back, and I had to do regenerative pruning, and I wasn't sure if it was going to come back, but it did. And so I leave it there. There is a new proven winner weigela. I can't remember the name of it right now. Just saw a thing about it, but it's beautiful, and it just keeps on blooming all summer long. It's a zone 4 plant, but I'd sure like to try it. Here we have spireas. They do pretty good considering they actually don't get a whole lot of sun. Once these trees leaf, They're in a fair amount of dappled shade, but they bloom nice pink blossoms throughout the summer. Long lasting, quite tough, these plants. So just here in the yard in general, my plan this summer is to make a little bit wider ring around the willow trees as well. We'll take out this brick and we'll probably do some sort of a round circle or maybe oval shaped or something in this area as well. Our landscape logs are in terrible condition and either need to be replaced, or I'm thinking we're just going to do a straight edge into the lawn with like a half moon edger all the way along, and then just keep it that way. I really do like the look of that. Ideally, it would be nice to have a mowing edge, a brick mowing edge. It's a lot of mowing edge to put in, but I think that straight edge, I think that would look really nice too. And Andy has the tools to look after that now. Just continue. This is one of that last bed that we just saw, as well as this one. These are the only two full sun areas that I have in the backyard. Back here, all of this area is Heliopsis once it gets going. It's a good spot for it. I don't mind it there. It does look nice once it gets going. This is a peony seedling. I get them often, and they're usually from this peony, which is a Laura Dessert peony. Blooms yellow. It's the earliest one I have. I have a lot of ladybugs going on here for some reason. They're all tucked in, unless they're just attracted to the sap, because there's already buds here. So that could be. There's also a few ants, but there's definitely more ladybugs than there is ants. Through here, there's still some tall-bearded iris, more peonies, more iris, and there's some other perennials planted in here. Plus, I think some of the ones that I just bought, I'm going to probably put into here as well. There's a ornamental thistle, globe thistle seedling there. That I'll dig up because I don't want any more of those. Another clematis that grows up this pole as well. There's clematis all along the fence line. They take a minute to get going as well. I have to pull back the mulch every year so that the ground warms a little quicker so that they can get going. And still tree seedlings for me to pull up in here. This grass has to go. Still work to be done in here. Back along the fence line, I have more tall-bearded iris. I have some phlox, tall phlox. I have a Himelo stackies that I quite like. It's quite nice. And a little bit more phlox in here. I've also started Virginia over in the corner, and I'd like it to sort of take over that corner, I guess, because it's a dry, kind of partly shady corner. I've also started in here, beside this lovely dandelion, I've also transplanted a few Solomon seal, because this would be dry shade. I thought it would be nice to have a ring of Solomon seal all the way around it. And so I just planted it last year, not knowing if it was going to actually take or not, because, you know, it's mostly just mulch under here, shallow soil. But these do grow quite shallow, and yeah, they're coming up. There's another one over here, another one over there. I had put a few around. So that's good to know, because if I have to dig any up this year, I'll know where I could put it. I've also started more Solomon seal underneath the tree there by the Virginia as well. It's nice to have plants that are a problem solver, and Solomon seal is one of them, because it will grow in shade, dry soil. This one gets a fair amount of sun. You see it's up earlier than any of the others I'm going to show you. It's a lot more advanced. This has actually multiplied fairly fast considering when I put it in, which hasn't been that long. Maybe 3 to 5 years, I'd say. But I'd like it to fill this area. And eventually it'll probably creep its way under the deck, because that's what it does. Coming into this I call this the shade area, although you can see that this area on this side gets sun in the mid-afternoon, and this area would get sun in the morning. And I have the usual in here, lots of hosta, Virginia, goatsbeard, thalictrum, hosta, and a queen of the prairie. I don't know about this lady. I've been trying to get her to grow, and she's actually doing a lot better this year than she has previously. I wanted it here because it's next to the rain barrel, and so it would be easy to water, as well as it might benefit from some spillover when we get too much in the rain barrel. But it just seems to be struggling. So this is now, I planted it year before last. Last year I waited and waited till probably mid-June before I even saw a bump like a little bump showing that there was growth. This year the growth is earlier, so I have high hopes this year that it's going to do something. And then if it does, but if it looks like it's still struggling, I may dig it up and move it. Just because maybe it just doesn't like this. Maybe, I don't know why. It's got nice rich soil here and everything, so I'm not sure. Martagon lilies. Oh, this I was going to mention is all of this little growth down here. It's all mostly seeded out. There might be some of the original clumps, but it's mostly seeded out, and it is a primula. I'm pretty sure it's Primula denticulata. It gets taller, nice soft pink blooms. It's really pretty when it does begin to when it does begin to grow and bloom. It's quite pretty, and then after it blooms, it just completely disappears underneath the hosta foliage and any of the other foliage that's around. I do have quite a few hosta that are in here, and they are just barely starting to poke their noses through. Yeah, here for example, there's nothing yet. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it because I see them every year. I have for 25 years, so can't imagine that this year will be any different. Over here I have a named cultivar of Virginia. It's not the same as the Virginia I have near the rock garden. Also in here I have a Trolleus, which is a globe flower, and I just planted that last year. I'm happy to see it coming back. I planted this hosta last year. It's called the Whee hosta, W-H-E-E, and very happy to see lots of growth coming on that one. It has those kind of curly, wavy leaves, and I really fell in love with it. So although I have more than enough hosta, I really did like that one. I feel like there should be something here, but I don't know what, and I don't know where it might be. If there's nothing there, then that's opportunity. Pulmonaria. This is Pink-a-Blue, and this is only its second year here, but it's supposed to have both pink and blue blooms, or it starts pink and turns blue, or I see there's a little bud right there that's going to be pink, and there's more buds coming. So these blue ones are very early, the newest or the oldest blooms. They bloomed quite early. We'll see what it does, but I mean the foliage looks really good. I have another pulmonaria, which is lungwort. I have another one back there, and it's slower. But you know, this bed stays, I should take the temperature of the soil here, because this bed stays cold much longer because it's so shady. I have a Brunnera just barely poking through, as well as a the rocket, Ligularia. I have one of those planted back here as well, and I see that's also just poking through. This is the Solomon seal. Actually, it's grown some since I last paid attention to it. It fills this bed, and rarely needs to be watered. It covers the area completely, which is nice. It grows, I'm going to say, about this tall. Very nice foliage plant. On this side, in addition to a hosta and this poor bleeding heart that has just jammed itself up against the wall now, used to be over here. And then it kind of, died from here and kept moving along, and that's now where it grows. Anyways, I do have some hosta in here, and this is a variegated Solomon seal, and that has multiplied nicely now. I think this is its third year here. So here we're moving on to the west side of the garage, and in here I've had this flower bed here for also 25 years, I guess. In here I have a lot of lilies, Asiatic lilies. There's, I believe, still a few ornamental oriental lilies, and a variety of perennials. This is a geum. It's called Prairie Smoke. Here I have, it's not up yet, but I have a large planting of Rudbeckia goldsturm. It's like a black-eyed Susan. There's coneflower in here, just starting to emerge. What is this? This might be an echinacea. Purple illusion. No, this is a veronica. And I've discovered that at the back here, just under the eave of the garage, the iris are very happy. So I think that I will continue to move some from the back and put them here, just simply because they are quite happy here. I can mask. I have many other things that are coming into bloom or that will be in bloom, even if the iris aren't. So that's a pretty good candidate, I think, for either the south or west side of a building or of your home. I think the tall-bearded iris, like the dryness that's provided by the eave. There's also a lot of ornamental onion in here, and they are just here. They're just starting to push up their bloom stalks. The cord, the extension cord, of course, runs to the greenhouse. I'm still heating the greenhouse at night for the peppers and the tomatoes in particular. I want to keep it above 10 degrees C. And the other thing that I have here is still 4 or 5 daylilies, and I probably will be moving them out at some point. On this side of the border are my haskap bushes. I'm still toying with the idea of moving them, but they are doing quite well here, and I think, I said in another video that I wouldn't mind adding more, and I probably could add a fourth one here. They're in bloom right now, and the bees are very busy in there now that it's warmed up. I got an excellent crop last year. I'm hoping for one again this year. I do like the berry. They freeze easy. They're good in smoothies. They're good. They're just good. I eat them with yogurt a lot. And so, like I said, I could probably add another, and I may do that. I also have some iris in here, and autumn joy sedum. There's some Shasta daisy. This whole section here, I've been growing an annual evening scented stalk. It usually seeds out in here. Nothing up yet, though. This is the Norkent apple tree. The blooms are just forming. They're not open. The blossoms are not open, thankfully, because we are getting frost tonight. I think we're getting frost tonight. It's going to be good and cold anyway. So there's lots of blossoms. It's filled with blossoms. So I think, fingers crossed, it should be a good tree harvest. I really like, or apple harvest. I really like the Norkent. They're a really tasty apple. They're super for fresh eating. I chop and freeze for apple crisp or apple pie. I make the filling and then freeze it. And we also juice quite a bit of apple. And I keep saying I'd like to get a third apple tree. I don't know, maybe two's enough. This is the Norkent and this is the Norland. This apple tree is the Norland. The buds are at the same state. And we'll see how this one does. I did come in here earlier this year and did a bit of pruning. Nothing too drastic, but you know, cross branches, and I keep trying to go for that vase shape. To be honest, I struggle with apple tree pruning because I never know if I'm cutting off something that should be cut off or not. And ringing this bed just around the front of it is a bunch more daylilies. Over here I have a bridal wreath spirea. I think that I will chop this right to the ground this year, depending on, I'll wait, see if it's going to bloom. And another high bush cranberry. Big planting of lamb's ears over here. They usually look pretty awful in the spring. I always come in with a leaf rake and I give them a good raking. It won't look like this for much longer because the new growth has started. It just forms a nice silver carpet here. It seems to really like it here, so I'll let it grow. This I just kind of planted and replanted last year. I put in a couple more perennial geranium. I created a path because I was making a path anyway going to the shed. So I created a path just out of straw. I planted a whole lot of iris in here, both short-bearded and tall-bearded iris. This section here is all tall-bearded iris. There's also some lilies in here. And I think that's probably the majority of it. I don't know. I think there should be something here. This may be lilies here. I'm not sure. There should be something here, but I don't know what it is at the moment. Oh, this needs to be pruned. This is a Carl Forrester grass. I miss showing you the Eldorado grass in the back, which is just like Carl Forrester, except it has a yellow stripe in the center of the leaf, center of the blade. Anyways, I will get that cut back. I just wanted to show you the strawberry bed coming along. This 6 on this side are the June bearing. These first 3 are Kent, and the other 3, or first 2 maybe, and the other 3 or 4 are Honeyoye. I think I'm saying that right now. Honeoye. This side is the everbearing, and they're blooming nicely. Leaf looks a little yellow right here. I did give them a shot of fertilizer the other day, so we'll see how that goes. And my pile of leaf mold, my leaves have not turned into any leaf mold yet, but they're quite compact. I'm just going to leave it, actually. I'm going to leave it for now and continue to see what it does. They pack down quite easily by themselves, so we can just keep adding more leaves. And back here we have, this is our work area. It's really not an area that's meant to be seen, but I think everybody has to have one, so here's ours. I keep some straw bales here. I'm not too concerned about this is at the back. These are flax straw bales, and just the type of straw they are. It's very tough, very strong straw, which is why I use them for the perennial beds, because they are very, very slow to break down. I'm not concerned about them deteriorating, being left out in the open, but these are some straw, cereal straw bales. I think they're wheat straw, and I like that. I like that straw to be kept dry and clean. I see something here has made some holes. Perhaps it was the deer that came through here a lot this past winter. And over here I planted a giant fleece flower. My neighbor has one. It's been there for a number of years, and it is massive and it's beautiful. I think it's got to be, I don't know, it's got to be 7, maybe 8 feet tall and probably as wide. It's huge. I'm hoping for that for this. And the fact that it's perennial and not shrub is just a bonus, you know, I think. So I think this might be year 4 for this one. It does, I mean, it's going good. It's growing a little every year, putting on a little bit more growth every year. And it does bloom nicely every year. My hope is that it's going to get quite big, and when I sit on that bench in the garden over there, this will be my view of this big fleece flower. That's my hope. Over here I'm hoarding and stockpiling still some steer manure that gets used by the bucketful now when I replant a perennial or something like that. Still have some of that left. And then we're into the vegetable garden. This is the cotoneaster hedge. We have hedging here as well as here along the side there, which is our neighbors, and we're just trying to keep it shorter. We used to let it grow taller. It became unmanageable, and also it gets kind of thin looking, I think. It needs to be sheared well every year, if not twice a year. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to come in here with my little hedge trimmers very soon and just shear off the edges or just the sides, and Andy will come in after the bloom and go deeper and cut the tops off. He has the big machinery. So in the vegetable garden compost area, I touched on that briefly the other day that we got it sifted. I now have, this is the current pile where stuff is going to get added. This is a stockpile of sifted compost, and this is finished compost but unsifted. And I like to have a bit of that. Every time I put some kitchen scraps there, I can come over here, grab a handful of that and put it on the kitchen scraps. Last year I had a lot of flies here, and that was bothersome, I thought. And so I'm going to try and have enough to be able to put on the kitchen scraps. And this is another, when we sift it, after we sift it, that we fill up, and then I can use it as needed. And just going along, there's nothing planted here yet. This is going to be melon. I would like to show you though, I'll just take up the front side of this, and Andy can get in there and get a shot of, this is the cabbage that I transplanted just the other day, and it is looking pretty good. It certainly enjoyed all that rain that we got. Well, it wasn't that much, but it was, you know, 7/10 or so, 3/4 of an inch. So Andy, if you just want to poke your head under there to get a shot of what's going on under there. They're looking fine. And I need to keep them covered because of the cabbage butterfly as well as possibly flea beetles. But as soon as, probably in a couple of days, I'm going to change this frost blanket, this row cover, I'm going to change it to netting so that they don't get too warm, because it does get quite warm under here with row cover. And with this row cover, I find that it's a little bit too warm for cabbage or broccoli that likes to grow cool. This bed is not yet planted. This will be, I think, carrots and beans. I usually plant the two of them together. And this bed will be butternut squash. I have 5 that germinated out of the 6 and growing nicely in the greenhouse right now. So they are going to grow in here. This is the potato bed. There's really not much happening in here, but I have seen little breaks in the soil, which means the stems are going to pop through very shortly. So right now it's just on there flat, and I need to change that to hoops so that when they start to come through, they're not going to be impeded at all by that. Garlic doing nicely. The onion I transplanted just recently, maybe a week ago. I don't think it's been that long yet. Also doing nicely. I did keep the shade cover on for a while because, you know, the day I transplanted them was a warm day, and the next day was a hot day. It was over 30, and you know, that's hard on transplants. It doesn't matter what kind of plant it is. That's just hard on transplants, and so I kept the shade cover on. Actually, I doubled the shade cover, which is this green plasticky stuff, and I doubled it and I kept it on here just to give them some relief from the sun. And I took it off when it started to rain, and they enjoyed that. This bed I just planted a few days ago. This was lettuce, romaine lettuce, butterhead lettuce, or buttercrunch. There's chicory back in there and more buttercrunch, and this is where I transplanted the lisianthus, which I'm just going to use for cut flowers. It's not for ornamental purposes, just ornamental in the house. Also in here will be the cucamelon will grow here, and the cucumber there, the 2 cucumber that I'm going to grow, will grow there. And we put a trellising kind of system in here for them to grow on. All along here is lamium, and I do nothing with it except I will come in and trim the edges. That's probably a job for this week because now it's just coming into bloom. It's like a carpet of purple when it's in bloom. It's really nice. I've been letting it spread and spread, and I'd like it to spread all the way and have it that way all the way. It helps with keeping down weeds through here as well. I have a lot of Asiatic lilies. I think they were called a landscape blend or something. They're really nothing special, but they're nice Asiatic lilies, and they are planted throughout here, and they grow fine in amongst the lamium. Anywhere I have lamium as a ground cover, as a matter of fact, any perennial, except for maybe small ones. I don't think I have any where I have small perennials, but everything pops up and grows through without any problem. In here, I also have more lamium. This is just on the other side of the rock garden and the path on the rock garden. And so in here, I also have a bunch of Martagon lilies. I have lady's mantle. There's hosta. That's probably it for perennial. Oh, Virginia, I've started some in there. They all come up and through the lamium without any issue. So, you know, I think it's a pretty good ground cover, really. It does pretty good in shade. It does okay in sun. It needs some moisture from time to time, but I think it does okay. And this is probably about the last bit. More Martagon lily. You know, these Martagon lilies that I have everywhere, I started off with maybe a dozen seed a great many years ago that I seeded with care and waited for them to bloom, probably 5 years or so. And they bloomed, they set seed. Pretty much every year I let them set seed, and then I take that dried seed and I sprinkle here and there. And then you have to be able to recognize the leaf. This is the first leaf of a Martagon lily right there. So that's all that's going to happen with this year. And then next year it'll be a little bit more, and then eventually it'll get to this and this and this. And then eventually this was one lily, and it has, you know, increased to I don't know how many stems now. This is a big, massive lily. They don't seem to mind being crowded so far. It doesn't, it's not like it's gotten smaller or anything. This is a white blooming one, and it has very nice blooms. So, you know, I'm quite a fan of Martagon lilies. I'm a fan of how you can start them just by throwing seed. I think they like a mulchy soil to start growing. I throw the seed in the fall, the snow packs them down, they winter, and then they start growing at some point. I don't pay attention to when or if this one started or if it did not. If you have a woodland setting, I think they're ideal for that. Anything like this on the edge, I think they're quite ideal for that too. You could dig them up and move them too if you wanted. And so, you know, this is going to be a work in progress, all of this area. This is a common lilac, and this is going to come out this year. These lilacs used to be very, very tall, and I cut them all down, and the main reason I cut them all down was because of the thousands of house sparrows that used to come here and roost every night, and it drove me crazy. And the amount of bird poop in there the next morning was atrocious, and I just thought that can't be healthy. So I tried everything to get rid of house sparrows, and this is the only thing that worked, was taking away their habitat. So, and that did work. I'm going to work on killing the stumps that are left over, and then I'm going to create these sort of undulating mounds of rock garden. That's my plan. I think in my head it looks nice. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the tour. This is actually something that I would like to do, walking through the yard and just seeing how things are progressing, how things bloom, how they die down, things like that, just things of that nature. It's mostly going to be perennial, you know, because that's the majority of my yard, but it's something that I'd like to do a little more frequently. You know, probably at least once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, and in the height of the season, maybe every week. I'm not sure. You know, in the height and heat of the season, I don't do a lot of work, and so maybe walking around the yard and having a stroll is going to be the thing to do for about a month in July when I'm roasting to death. So anyways, hey, thanks for watching today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, give me a thumbs up, tell your friends, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Thanks again. See you.